Hello, hello, hello out there in Instagram land. I am Kristian Roberts. I'm waiting on my fabulous friend and co-host so we can come on here and do a live episode for you all. Please come on in the room. Let's do a check-in. Where are you from? Where do you call home? How's the weather where you are? And how are you feeling today? Oh, and there's Quo. Hey, friend.
Hey. Hello.
I just asked everybody to check in. I asked, where are you from? Where do you call home?
Hello from Poland. Hello, Poland.
Hello, Poland.
You
I
know
asked how
you're
everybody was
Poland.
feeling today and what the weather was like. Because in Texas, it's our version of cold.
It's yeah, it's getting there. It's gonna
Yeah.
and then it's gonna do something else next week. It's like this
Yeah.
space of
Next week, it'll be back in the 70s. So,
yeah. Like, do I turn on the heat? Turn on the AC system.
you turn on the little space heater overnight. That's really it.
Welcome everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for hopping into the space with us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing space with us, right? That's always an honor to be in spaces with people, to witness things with people and to experience things with people. So hello and welcome.
Especially after being so long without people,
Aha.
at least in the in person type of way. We
Yeah.
found
Then.
definitely ran into new ways to socialize. So,
Mhm.
and build community. That's been one of the coolest things. So,
Hi
I
everybody.
think
Welcome to the room.
we usually try to do that, opera house standard of holding the house for five so people can join.
Over.
And there's five. I don't know if it was quite five, but there's five on my computer. So, therefore, let me kick this off as we usually do. My name is Kristian Roberts. I'm here with my fabulous friend and co host,
Quo Johnson.
and we are back yet again for
Ah,
another live episode of Taking the Stage with Kristian.
and Quo. And of course, as we begin all of our episodes, we will start this episode with a land and people acknowledgement. We do this because it is important in truth telling, it is important in making connections, it is important in knowing from where we've come and where we are and where we want to go. So I'd like to start this episode by acknowledging that we in Dallas are on stolen land. We are on the land of the Caddo, the Wichita, and the Comanche sovereign nations. Nations of beautiful human beings who lived a full human experience, who loved, who fought, who lost, who cultivated the land since time immemorial. Nations of individuals and souls and human beings who unfortunately faced very horrible conditions, including genocide and policy that allowed for forceful removal by any means necessary. I also want to take the time to acknowledge that people were stolen from their homes and brought here into Dallas and forced into free and enslaved labor. And from that free and enslaved labor, we now have what we enjoy as Dallas, Texas. Dallas is not alone in benefiting from stolen land and stolen labor, as the entire nation benefits from an economy that was able to meet a booming experience because of stolen land and stolen labor. Again, we do this not to place blame, right? None of us created these conditions. These are all things that we've inherited, things that we did not control. What we do have control over is how we tell the truth, how we acknowledge the ways in which we are impacted by these experiences. My last name is Johnson, not because my ancestors' name is Johnson, same for Ms. Roberts here, but in acknowledging the presence, the existence, the thriving ways in which communities are here, are living, are continuing to create art, to create stories, and to create connections. And also understanding that we have the honor, we have the responsibility, and we have the capability to reduce the harm, to heal the harm, and to connect moving forward. So with this, we thank you for joining us for this land and people acknowledgement.
And of course, as always, we thank you for joining us. And also, thank you so much for sticking with us. This is episode 64, and this is sort of a special episode for us. We are calling this the Opus One finale. And that is because this is the last show we will do before we take a break and come back ready to go in January. So while I'm here, I just want to thank, of course, the Dallas Opera. I want to thank our senior leadership, the staff of the Dallas Opera for your support, and of course, you, our audience, for
Mhm.
your continued support. So this is a very special episode. I also want to give a shout out to my brother, our friend, David Lomeli,
Hey, David.
who approached us with this crazy, crazy concept and idea after hearing me and my friend here jabber on and on about injustice and ways to change things for years at TDO. So thank you so much for being here. And we're just going to do a little talking today just about, our past experience since about what, April 2020, May of 2020.
April 20th.
It ran together for a little while. The pandemic does funny things to you. And then just the ideas of, what episodes meant the most of us, what guests said things that really resonated with us and that sort of thing. So, Cole, let's get into it.
Ah. And of course, since we're live and we have people here and who are sharing space with us, also feel free to share and answer the questions, right? We'll go through a process of what is this and what is that, but not that Cyril, of course. But feel free to also share your experiences, your thoughts, your desires, and what's happening with taking the stage, right? You've been on this journey with us, and if you are joining us, welcome. If you've been with us, thank you so much as we continue to do this. So I'm gonna hand it back over to you, Kristian. Go for it.
So, one of the things that we thought we'd do, and the way I love the way that Quo has laid this episode out because it's really asking us to reflect and think about, sort of what we've been through as a whole, not only individually, not only within our own organization, within the world
Yeah.
we're dealing with right now, but this journey, particularly putting together this particular show and what it's been like so far, and what has been rewarding, what we have learned. So one of the first questions that we're going to ask, and please feel free to put in the chat as well, and answer it. What are some of your favorite moments from this Opus One, as we are calling it? So, Quo, I'll put the question to you, and then I will answer it, and we will look in the chat to see if folks answered it.
Cool. I'm down with that format. So one, just in case people are like, what's up with Opus? In those of us, right, in the performing arts, specifically for music, in these 64 episodes, it was too much to call a season. We did not stop. There were times when we would text and call each other and say, hey, how you feeling? Do you want to do anything this week? Do you want to record? Do you want to make sure we say something about whatever's going on? And we had made a decision that this was too important for us to stop, right, at the time. And so because of that, there was never truly a break for seasons. This is a work, and the work that we've put together. Therefore, this is our first work. This is Opus One. So some of my favorite moments from Opus One. Yeah, I wrote this question down, and I should have thought about it. That's what happens when you see. I would say some of my favorite moments happened both in what we were able to share, and then as well as the things that did not get shared, only because we just were not recording them, or there was a blooper, or we had to find another way to get the things to the community. I will say I'll start from the beginning. We had some difficulty recording with the Morris Robinson.
Oh, Morris, thank you for being our first guest.
It was a struggle just because.
And thank you so much for putting up.
Yeah, thank you, Morris. You're so kind. You're so kind.
We love you.
And it was a struggle, but the ability in this and in our guests and in the conversations that we've had to be a part of community and to share in community, sometimes with people we've never met, right? And then a lot of times with guests, just so we can check in. So one of my favorite moments was kind of being able to to learn from others in a way that I myself did not know, right? I know a lot, and I knew, of course, a lot of our guests, but being able to bring that forward. One of my also one of my favorite moments was this very challenging episode where we used this to process our experiences, but also to share and to voice the very real things that we know come to light and that do not often, get shared. So in this, I'm also a fan of the Dear Artist conversation, right? And just the artist was feeling it, we were feeling it, it was heavy. And being able to be in the space of you matter, to remind everyone that you matter. Of course, episodes with Jerry Hawkins and speaking about the truth, coming from a simple question of, well, what does that mean? Why, what's that name on your shirt? Why, who is that? What happened? And realizing the
You know
ways
the root, yeah, behind that. Whew,
the ways in
that
which
was
the narratives come into play. Of course, keep that same energy.
yeah.
Just these reminders of this is still going on, this is still happening, this work is still necessary, your role in this work is still valid and it's still necessary. So I'm not sure I officially answered that question. I did the diplomatic thing of kind of going around it. So I'm gonna pass it back to you because I'm good at that. So I'm passing it back to
In
you.
terms of favorite moments, I've had some moments that have been comedic to me, some that have been very powerful for me. I think about the episode we had with Melissa Young, and she got a little
Mm,
choked up when she talked about how um, the passing of the torch and the training that happened,
mm,
from Miss Williams and working with Zanetta Drew over at Dallas Black Dance Theater Center, and
mm,
how the trust that was placed in her to bring the company's artistic vision and to hold the vision that Miss Ann Williams put in place as she built that organization. Um, I thought about the story of the name it and claim it. When Miss Ann pointed to that building and said, "We're going to move in there,"
yeah.
and they did. And that to me is one of the most powerful and profound things, because if you know anything about that area of Dallas, there's been really, really hard things that have happened there. Where the
Mm,
Arts District sits right now in Dallas, that used to be a Black neighborhood.
mm.
And the
Freemanstown.
building that organization is housed in now, that is their building, used to be the Y. And there is civil rights history in that building. And the fact that this generation was passing to another generation, and the training of the generations for this, that mentorship quality between generations, and the confidence of a founder of an organization, an artistic director organization, passing the keys,
Yeah.
to the kingdom, as it were, to somebody, and trusting them with that artistic vision, and also giving them room to grow that vision, using their own artistic prowess in leadership. I thought that was phenomenal.
Mm,
So that was one of the ones that got to me in terms of, was just because of it. I get chills to this day thinking about it. Uh,
nice.
it was good. I love the episode where we were cracking up the entire time, basically, with Byron Sanders and this
Byron.
video, and just the nuances within culture, because it felt like we were in the room with our brother, the entire time. And this is a man who sat on the board for this organization, and then when that position opened up, they were like, "Well, you have great ideas, from the board. Why haven't you put your hat in the ring?" And he did. And I see the success of that organization, and we work with that organization regularly through our education programs. And just that they, like other nonprofits this year, had to rethink and figure out how to continue to
Mhm.
connect the community, as through the whole virtual realm and mess. And other times they had to mask up and actually physically be in spaces handing out food and supplies, and this sort of thing. And that's a profound connection. And that they also were trying to make sure that there were artistic um, experiences from their artistic partners, organizations, asking us, what can you do? What can you provide? Here's a platform to put those things up for folks, and this sort of thing. So I thought that was really, really cool too. And just a story of how he grew up, and the different experiences that he had.
Mhm.
I could go on. That's just two that popped into
Right.
my head. Please, folks, do not be offended if I don't remember them all. I'm also thinking about the episode where we just could not get it together with Renee from Black Women in Opera. We just could not.
Good times.
And
That's blooper reel as
Renee's
well.
phone kept dropping, and her light shifted, and just all this stuff that ended up in a blooper reel. But I remember us laughing so hard because we were talking so seriously,
And
and
you
then this
yeah,
um,
in
but just
this.
a different aspect of the communities, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, that we have
Yes.
been able to tap into, and the community that we have begun to create, via a screen, and how now you and I have always said that, well, don't be surprised if we're in your city, and like we're literally, we have so many places to go. We got to go to San Francisco. You already been to Pittsburgh. We got you been to Cincinnati with Tracy. We got to go to Cincinnati. I mean, all these different places from folks that we might see at a conference or two.
Yeah.
We might see them out and about when we were out in our own community in Dallas, but because all of us were so busy with our own organizational schedules, our performance schedules and board meetings and all these things, we wouldn't have seen each other. And in that pause, that was the pandemic, while we were working extremely hard trying to get our organizations through this and just physically try to live and make our way through it, that there was a community that was able to come out of this. And to me, that is incredibly a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Nice. I dig it. In this, some of my kind of course, I love conversations with all the guests, right? Just the opportunity for us to share space together and to hear from people, but then to see the perspective of those who are in the arts, or maybe they're not in the arts, and it's kind of the different approach to what that means, right? And what that looks for education. Maybe everyone was not all in opera, but what it meant for people to be human beings in a space that says that, oh, we want you to be here. Okay, if you want me to be here, here are the things that I need in place in order to ensure that my humanity is acknowledged and that my humanity is valued just as much as the person next to me, just as much as the person on stage, just as much as the person who's making the final decision. And it's the process of having all of these conversations to get us as individuals to that point, but then to also get leaders, to get administrators, to get artists, to get the entire field to go into a space of, one, stop tripping. Two, it's okay if you were tripping before. You can stop now. It's okay, right? It's okay. It's okay because we as human beings, we do things, and like we said, we're dynamic. And so there are always shifts that we have to make. We're always learning something. And so getting away from a fear of making a mistake, right? Fighting that white supremacy culture characteristic of perfectionism, getting away from that fear of making a mistake and then being able to not just embrace those mistakes, because sometimes that's just, oh, I'm going to hold on to it and that's it, but being able to learn and to move forward, right? And knowing that this is something that took place, I know better, I will do better. Knowing that I will need to continue to always do that and to always be in community, to be in dialogue, and to be in conversations with others. I always liked our call to actions, of course, and what that meant, especially for the episode of Are You Trustworthy? Right? Did you lie? Maybe you didn't mean to do it on purpose, but did you put up this Black Lives Matter and Stop Asian Hate and all of these things because that's what felt like was right at the time? And now you're back to the things that you were doing before that caused us to be in a situation where we had to say these things out loud. And if that's the case, it's okay, right? But being able to say shift, being able to have conversations with others from the very first person perspective and allowing that to inform the conversations that we do going forward. So of course, it's been a beautiful journey. It's been wonderful. But, if I had to wrap all of my favorite moments into that, it was those very real, let's find some solutions kind of
Yeah,
conversations.
yeah, and I feel you on that. I actually just had one that also came to mind when we did keeping that same energy.
Hmm.
Are you tired? Well, welcome to people who have to live with this every day of their lives. And
Welcome,
I
Brooke.
just want to, yeah, it's that's what it is. And then the very real it was Chip McNeil who said, "I'm not your summer project."
Hmm.
Meaning that this kind of work is not a summer project and a trending topic to be left by the wayside, meaning this is a labor of longevity. This is something we have to constantly check ourselves on because it's been going on for so long.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I fear as we move back onto the stage, the traditional stage that is that things are getting lost, and I'm already seeing it, and I have very real concerns. Um, so that's something that I would talk about here and now. When we talked about, what topics, those are the topics that we kept saying over and over again. Keep that same energy, keeping that same energy. Are you trustworthy? Um, uh, not a trending topic. All these things when we said, please do not treat this like a marketing trend, as something to get grant money, as something to sell tickets, as something for donors. Please do not treat it this way. And of course, inevitably, it's already happening.
And
And
what a privilege, right? What a privilege to
yeah,
be able to treat somebody's lived experience like a
yeah.
trend, like something to pick up and put down when it's necessary for you.
Well, it makes you feel used. It quite frankly makes me feel used. And my lived experience is used. And I know many people who have voiced the same sentiment. Many folks in the margins, if you will, marginalized folks who have voiced the same thing, who have said, I felt like somebody used me as a marketing topic, used our experiences as a marketing topic or something or a trend, or now going, okay, I can't think about that right now. Gotta be back to business as usual. And I want us to be
Mhm.
very careful of that. And
Yeah.
if you find that me saying that makes you uncomfortable, you should probably take a look at yourself.
And then remember my voice saying it is okay, because you're probably not the only person to do that. You can be one of the people who decide to stop doing that, right? We want to get to a space where we are not benefiting on other people's suffering. To have
Yeah.
the entire field, again, with the black squares and the statements, and suddenly profiting off the pain of an entire community, and then gaslighting, if you will, and saying, oh, well, are you sure? Or we're done, we're over it, we did these things, we don't need to do that many things, right? In this space and what it means for opera, as we tell human stories, or as we tell experiences, as we use our beautiful imaginations to tell stories, we have so many stories to tell. In this, we have to be what we call it, Dallas Opera, right? We call it responsible storytelling. Being responsible in the stories that we tell, being just as creative in the stories that we tell, in the ways that we tell those stories, but then also making sure that there's a very real connection to the communities and to the individuals we're asking, hey, can you come listen to us tell the story? Because ultimately, that's what we're doing. We got together, tell this story. Hey, do y'all want to come listen to the story? We'd like for you to listen. We'd like for you to sit here and let us know what you think. We'd like for you to give us your energy, your time. We'd like for you to give us your commitment to listen to this story. And if the field, particularly for this nation, for the United States, right? I'm seeing different people from different places. Hello and welcome. If we do not lean into that creativity, if we do not lean into that boldness, we will continue to be in a bubble, trying to convince everybody else and ourselves that opera is the greatest thing ever, while also saying, well, why aren't people coming? What are we going to do? It's this dichotomy, this false dichotomy that we have going on, in that to tell stories in an authentic way, or to approach canon, right, repertoire in an authentic way, may sacrifice the quality of the performance. Anyo, what is that? No. So in this, right, as we start to look at the ways that fear continues to drive our decisions, we have to be willing to be just as bold. That fire and that boldness that it takes to stand on that stage, any stage,
Mm-hmm.
and to have somebody sit and listen to you when they do not have to, right? But to be able to say, I'm going to command this space. And when I open my mouth and I sing, you're going to have to stop what you're doing, because it's going to be that great. That boldness that it takes to do that, the audacity, if you will, that it takes to do that, we can definitely apply that same audacity to making sure that we're moving as a field in a space that says opera is for everyone. Opera is a form of telling stories in this beautiful way that we combine all the ways that we can tell stories, and that everyone should be able to exist in this field, to thrive in this field, and then to participate in the field, right, in a way that is valuable and in a way that is meaningful. As we have these conversations, the excuses become all the more real. And that's okay, because it's okay for you to stop. We can see when it's an excuse. We can see when it is an excuse to keep certain structures and systems in place because of fear. Again, hear my voice say that's okay, and then hear both of us say, "Stop that."
Pretty much, pretty much,
Stop it.
pretty much, because what that comes across as looking like, is that you weren't listening in the first place. Again, or you were just using it to benefit you during a rough time, and okay, that's over now. You have to be very, very careful. And the thing is, as humans, we were talking about this before we came on today, how easily humans forget. We
Yeah.
really do. We really do. Sometimes we have the attention span of fleas, okay? And this is not, don't laugh. I'm not-
There's a flea
but
somewhere that was like, "Look at you."
there's a flea like that's like, that's discrimination. That's
Yeah.
mad at me right now. I'm sorry, fleas. I'm sorry. You deserve to live too. Just,
We
you know,
we have the attention span of human beings who often forget things
who
because
often
we try
forget
to.
things like we do, and it just it happens. But I ask you to deliberately remind yourself of things. Be deliberate in this practice. Be deliberately bold, just as you are deliberately bold when you pick up the score and have the nerve to sing music that's been around for 400 years.
Yeah,
Then try to convince the public that it's worth coming to see.
yeah.
Artists are bold, okay, no matter where they are. If they're in from the boardrooms and rehearsal rooms, standing on the podium, on the stage, hanging lights, whatever it is, we have to do things in a lot of ways, right? And particularly in opera, there are so many different forms of entertainment that are available to people these days. And here we are going, this 400-year-old art form is still worth listening to. That takes a boldness in this world today.
And I
You know,
think, and it's okay to lean into that boldness because it's true, right? And truth is
yes.
relative in this, but we're in this industry for a reason. We're doing this work for a reason because it is true that when we allow opera and the art form to do what it does best, right? And to tell the stories. Now we have to be mindful, we have to be intentional, we have to be humble enough to make sure that the stories that we tell are in a space, and the ways in which we tell them are in the space that will allow people to be challenged, but to be reflected and they have their humanity reflected and to be celebrated, right? In honest and authentic ways. We have to put that in place. But once we do that and we actually put those things into place and we get out of the way, man, and we
Mhm.
actually get out of the way, we've seen it happen in the ways in which we engage with students. And it's not always, oh, you need to learn this and you need to know this, and here's all the things you need to know. No, this is a story. You connect to the story the way you need to connect to. Tell me your story. This exchange of space and experience and energy that happens. We can be bold about it because we know the art form is worth it. We know
Yep.
it is.
We wouldn't be
Why?
here if it wasn't.
Yeah. Right, right. So
Why,
why
why are we
continue?
here if it's not worth it?
Why
And I
continue to
think,
create more problems, right? And just
yeah,
barriers.
yeah. And so that's sort of where I am right now. And I will say this. I will say that I have been very hopeful by what I've seen in this industry. I have seen this industry literally turn itself on its head, trying to do the right thing. I want to be very clear because I don't want everybody it's like Kristian and Quo came and gave the beat down today. No, that's not what this is. What I'm saying is I am acknowledging the fact that I've seen some bold steps being taken in this, especially since April of 2020. I've seen some very bold things happen. I've seen people start to have conversations that are challenging, but they're willing to sit in the room and doing them. And yes, we don't hand out candy and applause just because you sat there and listened. But what we are saying is you sat there and actually listened. Because in the past, a lot of people, they're like, well, this has nothing to do with me, so I'm really not worried about it. I'm just going to go put on this show. But many folks have sat down and been very real and honest about their experiences and about what they knew and did not know, and trying to figure it out and trying to learn and trying to apply. I've seen it in front of my eyes. I've seen the progress that has been made. And that's why I say just be careful as we move back to our traditional stages and all the work that takes, because it takes a lot of work to bring an opera to stage.
Yeah.
Use what you learned over the past couple of years now, almost couple of years now. Use what you have learned going forward to make life easier for you and to make it more meaningful. and
Yeah.
to make it a more holistic experience for all involved. That is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You have to keep paying attention because, again, we get it. We work at an opera company. We completely understand what it's like. We know what it's like trying to get stuff to stage, right? And
Hmm.
it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort,
A
and a
lot of
lot of
people
lack of sleep. Um,
sleep, a lot of people, a lot of decisions, and then
yes,
meetings, and then we
and
try
we're
to,
still in a pandemic
yeah, yeah.
in the midst of all of this. So it's heavy, but I would encourage you to use the tools and methods that you've already been introduced to and start applying them in your daily work. And that's backstage, on stage, in the admin offices, wherever it is. Please continue to do that because you will find that it's going to be more beneficial in the long run, and it will make us be. It's a more sustainable model than we've had in the past.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's a whole show right there. So we won't get into that
Oh,
right now.
right. Imagine actually wanting to be where you work. It's like, yeah, I want to be here. Being excited about the art form. Like, yes, I can't wait to do that, right? Those types of spaces. And then being in a space where you feel supported when the challenges arrive. Because we're not, as you say so often, Christian, we're not in a vacuum, and art doesn't happen in a vacuum. We're always impacted, both internally and externally, by different things that go on. So being in a space to fortify ourselves to do what needs to be done and to do it in a way that matters, that's the goal. That is the goal, right? As we get there, and then once as we continue to get there, it's going to forever be something that we have to want to work toward and then maintain. But then all of the other beautiful opportunities that come out of that, and what this means for not just the opera industry, or for the performing arts, or just the arts, but what this means for us to share space just as a society.
Yeah, it's like I mean, and that's the big thing. It's been just so interesting to see what has come out of this and what continues to come out of all this. Um, we kind of went through all the questions already. We just went. We were just going, and that's cool. I'm cool with that. But we talked about some of the topics. What topics come to mind for you of your favorite topics? We talked about that. What topics were challenging?
Mm,
Definitely had
challenging
more than a
topic.
few of those.
I'm gonna say the challenging topic for sure. And we, like we said, we've had conversations where we would call each other and we'd sit and say, what are we going to do? And then at some point, it was very much, I don't want to do this.
Yep.
I don't want
Or
to do
after we
this.
got done, did we do that right?
Ah, did we do that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. All those thoughts and all those beautiful opportunities to see what's happening and what's going on. In this, one of the very difficult episodes, say her name.
Oh my God.
In fact, I think we took the approach. I think at one point we tried to do
Mhm.
something and then realized that that was not going to work that day, that night, because not just it was too raw, but it was too painful,
Mhm.
and for us to have to, I would not say have to, but for us to, in this commitment, to do that episode and to have these conversations about the ways in which particularly Black women are impacted, in the ways in which we are impacted, in which ways in which we are targeted, and how our experiences with that hashtag, right?
Mhm.
It's different. I've said before that that shadow feels different for us than it does for someone else. And to be in a space where we're able to rattle off names, I wouldn't even just say rattle names, to call names as if this were our favorite sports team, right? Or a cast or a list of all the greatest hits, but to know these names so well because of murder, because of racism, because of violence, because of fear. To know these names so well and then to know what that hashtag means, that was a very, very difficult episode for us to do. It was a necessary conversation because it also allowed us to start to explore, with the murders that took place in Atlanta, what that means for us. And again, we had a lot of people not with taking the stage, but in other spaces, like, well, you're an opera company. What are y'all doing? We're an opera company made of people, right? Beautiful conversation with Michelle Ramos. Opera company made of people. and we are impacted by the things that happen in our lives. We don't just put our experiences down just because we come into the office or because we log in because there are a lot of people online or because suddenly we have to put something on stage. Those things come with us and they continue to be and remain with us as we're doing our work together. So it was important that we had that conversation, and it was important that we brought that to the light for a lot of people, but it was a difficult and it was a challenging episode.
Yeah, that one was hard. I remember that night distinctly, us trying to record and then having to go to bed
Yeah, it's like this.
and think on it again. Like we just couldn't. I kept getting choked up. I was like, I can't do this. It was just hard.
Yeah,
Um, but once we decided what we wanted to do in the format we wanted to use on it, even in that new format that we worked on, it was still hard. It wasn't any easier. It was just a way for us to make it through it better,
yeah,
and still try to bring honor, um, to the people who needlessly lost their lives.
yeah, yeah. And it's been an interesting, I keep saying interesting, right? But just the ways in which conversations started to mold and to build as we heard experiences, knowing that not everybody has the same experience and not everybody has the same perspective coming into this art form or coming into any type of work, but to be able to share space with somebody who says, this is how I got here, and I'm committed to doing these things with these people. I'm committed to youth. I am committed to making sure that there are paths for people to actually engage in this art form. And then to have others who say, I am committed to making sure that once those paths are open and they're in the space, that we're in a space that allows us to actually get the work done. And when I say the work, right, we want to talk about the equity work and all these things, but also just the art form.
The
To be
artistic work.
able to remove all of the extra that comes with it so that we can be human beings in the space creating this beautiful art form and sharing it with others.
No, I think so too. I think about those stories of mentorship in that, and people that pave the way, and then people that maintain the
Mm,
way, that sort of thing, and how it takes all kinds. It really and truly takes all kinds. And if you really think about this art form, I mean, it is global in nature.
yeah,
Literally, have people from all walks of life, every country,
yeah,
every end of the earth, every continent, who participate in this. I mean, how cool is that? And it's one of the things that we make it a point to talk about and discuss when we're out in the community and doing performances or at a school, presenting a workshop or something. We literally have the cast members and teaching artists and folks introduce themselves and the crew and everybody that's there so people can see the diversity of at least people's hometowns
yeah,
or states or countries,
yeah,
and to say we are all from different walks of life, from different parts of the earth, quite literally sometimes, and to see the change in the audience that's sitting there because their eyes are like, and that is a good thing. And that's why I said we know this has the power, and we know that human part of ourselves just saying I'm from here, or singing as many languages or whatever that is a profound effect. And then we open our mouth, that seals the deal. To sing, we know what the art form can do. And I suggest that we use that power that we have again in presenting it to also present it in a way that is fair, that it is I won't say it's always going to be comfortable. It's not always going to be comfortable, but that it
yeah,
is a compassionate space for all those who are involved, and that people's humanity is allowed to come through. Now I want to be very clear. We realize that it is a business. Let me say that because I know people are like, oh, this lovey-dovey, hippy-dippy stuff. We realize it's a business. It is a 501c3. We're very clear on that. Okay. We realize that budgets have to be made, and we have to do strategic plans and all of these things. What we're saying is, and what we said from the jump, is that if you start through an equitable lens when working through all of these, it will make life a lot easier for you, and it will make it a place where people want to work and where people want to come and sing work, because that's work too. I
yeah,
don't care
that's
what
work.
anybody says.
That's work.
The
That's
world
big work.
was playing up there on the stage, and
Mhm.
we are sometimes because we like to have fun up there, but we are working, and so that's all we're saying. Because if you make all the changes on the surface, and then the environment is still not there, and then you bring people into that environment, we're going to be right back where we started.
Yeah.
And I will say that as far as learning new things on this journey. That's one of the things we talked about here. Um, I know me personally, in talking with people from not only different organizations, but who do different kinds of work. Remember, we had the Larneys on,
Mm-hmm.
um, and when they started talking about some of the history of the residential schools, and I know about the residential schools, but when you hear somebody talk about lived experiences, that sort of thing, and then how they take art and incorporate it into how Brian was talking about his artwork and all that, man, that was powerful.
Yeah.
That was so powerful. And I learned something new that day. I did. And for me, I learned something new because I didn't know the depth of that history. I didn't know, um, his artistic style and how he channels, his heritage through that, and then the educational work that they do, and them, going to the state of Texas about the textbooks and saying, no, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
All those profound things, and just the influence that they have had in establishing, um, um, just a day, and then for American Heritage in Texas Day, like they had it, where they went to work to do that, and to me that's powerful, and that's one of the things where I said, even on the show I've learned a lot, but that's one of the ones that sticks out to me because even as studiers of history and the nerds that I know that you and I are, we're constantly learning, constantly want to pick up something else. There's always something else to learn. So even while bringing people on here to talk with them about their experiences and their work and their organizations, and their upbringings and that sort of thing, um, that has been really really cool to see.
Mhm.
Just to get to know people, and get to know history of a place where you're standing and you don't know it all,
Yeah. Yeah.
and how
And to be
tricky that
able
can be.
to lean into that. And you mentioned before in saying that, we are a business, and that we are a 501c3. And that is very true, right? I don't even want to say at the end of the day, we have to do these things. We are always mindful to do these things. So I always encourage everyone, because I know this is a conversation that we have to battle sometimes. You can do both. In fact, you can use this. You should be using this in these conversations and equity work and what that means to do work together as a tool to complete and fulfill, right, your mission, to fulfill mission, and then as well as to handle your business. You can handle your business. You can do both. This is not an attack on your business or your ability to be productive. This is a way of saying that perhaps how we go about doing those things and completing those things are not always rooted in ways that uplift us all as human beings. In this, the wonderful conversations that continue to come out of this space and come out of taking the stage, we've seen people take these conversations to other places. We've seen people bring conversations to us, and just the engagement and the interaction that comes with that as well. So it's always been very, very interesting, right? But then also very humbling, and then also very exciting to say, okay, what are y'all doing there? What is happening here? Oh, okay. Thank you for watching the episode, right? Always. What are some other things that we can do? So in that, sometimes the challenging things are not always determining if we're doing things right, because it's not a matter of doing things right. We want to get away from being right and be into a space of being creative and being bold, but then also having the humility to say, oh, I did not do that correctly, or the impact that I desired is not the same, right? I intended to do these things, but that was not the impact. To be in a space to say, okay, well, what else can I do? And know that it is not a personal attack, or know that it is not something that needs to be defended to the point where we don't see any flaw in it. It's the
Hmm.
biggest thing. Our companies are so used to going by a manual. This is
Yep.
do this, you do this, you got this at this date, this person needs to do this, we need to make sure these people are here. And this is not work that can be completely done with a manual. There's a guide, if you will. There are some things that are a no-no, and then there are other things that, okay, absolutely do this and do this every time. But a lot of this work in equity, a lot of this work in community and education and art and creativity has to flow from a place of us being able to embrace that creativity, us being able to center that connection with other people, us being able to say, this is opera. Here are all the beautiful, wonderful things. Here are all the beautiful, wonderful, messy things about it. Come be a part of it and come help us continue to bring it to everyone. So in this, right, as I'm moving through through our episode, that is what I continue to learn from not just our guests, but just from the field itself and from those who are bold in their desire to do this work, but also the things that I see coming from the space.
Yeah, it's again, it's where you're ever learning.
Yeah,
You're constantly learning something new. And even when you are a doer and a teacher of this kind of thing,
that's the
um,
best.
the thing is, it's something that we again should be used to, because anybody that's a vocalist, you're constantly working to refine the voice. Pianists are constantly working on their technique. I mean, this is
Don't
what
stop.
we do.
Yeah,
This is what we continue to do. And so it's not going to happen overnight. But
but that does not mean don't do it.
it doesn't mean you don't do it, because
It
people will take a
happens
license to be
because
like, well, I guess we don't have to.
it happens
Uh,
because it's steady and it's intentional. It's like, oh no, Quote said it takes time. Certain things take time, other things do not. It does require that we are constantly being intentional every single day, every single moment about the things that we do and how we practice, right? Put this work into practice. Just like the what you just gave an example. You have to be intentional about what it means for us to continue to refine our craft, right? Art is a living thing. We are living things. Ecosystems that we're in, they are living things. So we have to continuously be able to adjust, right? In the things that we're doing.
and I will say this: if you don't think you can just adjust, how are you sitting here watching this and listening to us go on and on? And after what we've been through so far in this pandemic, I mean, we've had to be we. All of us should be like, Stretch Armstrong at this point, like the way we had to do things right now. And so I don't want us to forget that, particularly because we are a creative field. This is what we do. Um,
Nice. Nice.
everywhere we are a creative field, and so we know how to do this, and we should continue to do this. And again, it's a labor of longevity, right?
All right.
It's like,
So I'm gonna ask you,
I'm logging off. I'm kidding.
bye.
I got.
Thank you. In this, what would you like for people to take away from Opus One? Right? What are some of the things? If you had three things, top three things, you're like this, and this from this first 64 plus kind of episodes with Taking the Stage with Kristian and Quo.
Um, you can do business, and you can do business with people and humanity at the roots.
Yes, yes,
Cool.
yes.
Work, but it's possible. We are a creative field. We were
Mm,
built to do this particular kind of work. We tell the story of humanity, of human experiences. And so this idea of equity and belonging, and educating ourselves on these topics, and listening to the people in the room who know what they're talking about,
mm,
listening to the people you hired and trusting them to talk to do the job, okay,
yeah,
and help make the changes you foresee for your organization, okay. Please don't bring them in there for as a
yeah,
circus, superficial
yeah, yeah.
hire. That is more dangerous than if you would have never brought anybody in there in the first place. And then the third thing, really and truly, that is just on my heart and what I think about is what we said from basically from day one. Please, when you go back to your traditional stages, as you're moving back to your traditional stages, do not let the work that you have done and the progress that we have made in terms of equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging, access, please let that have been a starting point, and so that we can continue to move and apply right now what we learned in those months where we had to sit still, right? Because there was an invisible enemy that was plaguing us all, and it's continuing to plague us all as we move through those things, and we're getting trying to figure out how to do this stuff safely and still produce the artistic quality that we want to produce, and the messages that we want to send to our communities. Make sure that those messages are community centered.
Yeah.
Make sure that they understand it was not a trending topic for you, that it was not a marketing ploy for you, that you were serious about making sure that this work was a priority for yourself individually, for your organizations, art from the boardrooms to the rehearsal rooms. Seriously, it has to be that way. Those are the three things I want people to take away from this, and knowing the fact that you are not in this by yourself. Okay, there are plenty of people that are doing the work, but please do not isolate yourself and think you're alone in doing that work. Okay, there are plenty of people out here who believe that this is how we need to move forward as a field.
Nice.
So, and it can feel lonely sometimes when you feel like you're the only one going that way. But understand you are not alone. Understand that the world needs beauty, and we are creators of that. Yeah, and that includes you artists, particularly you artists. All right,
Well,
Quo,
that
your
wraps
turn.
up our episode, everybody. I
Let
think
me get off
Kristian
my
said it
soapbox.
all. We
Here, let me give you the apple cart. Here, it's your turn. Just stand on it.
yeah. Okay, I'll receive that. So my top three things of what you have not already shared, of course, I'm gonna say be bold, right? Be bold and be bold enough to stick to the core and the root of the reason that you got into this industry. Be bold enough to cling to saying, I enjoyed this. I like opera. Be bold enough to say, I like opera, right? And then be bold enough to say, I wonder in what ways I can continue to create opera. I can continue to bring opera to others. I can continue to receive opera from others. I can continue to expand this art form so that others also have the opportunity to like it. Be bold. Be bold and say, I like opera because of these things. And then be bold enough to say, oh, what can we do so that others can like it because of these things? That requires that we acknowledge that it's not always just the music and the singing or the sound that is different, right? Sometimes it is very much the ways in which we tell stories. Sometimes it's very much the stories that we tell, period, right? Let's be honest about that. And that's okay. But sometimes it's also the framing that we place around this art form and who is accepted, who is centered, who is prioritized, and who is presented only when it's beneficial. So be bold. My next thing that I'd like for everybody to take away from these episodes: talk, have conversations. We continue to be separated and to have this assumption about what should and should not be because we're not actually in community with others, we're not actually in conversation with others in a way that matters. We know we connect, we have our networks, we have our different things that we go to and different topics and subjects that we address, but we compartmentalize so many things in a way that is not always conducive and in a way that is not reflective of opera. We compartmentalize to prepare, but when it is time to put it all together, we put it all together. We put it all together, and it's a part of these things. So talk, have a conversation with others, have honest and authentic and sometimes uncomfortable and challenging, but wonderful and beautiful conversations with others. Learn something that you did not know, right? Perhaps about your community, about your colleague, about your supervisor, about your direct report, about your artist. Provide spaces to learn something that you did not know and then allow that to inform how you engage in the work that you do going forward. And another thing I want people to take from this is that, yes, it takes time for there to be real shift. I want to be mindful of that because when we're trying to quickly shift things, it's a matter of we want to see things. And when we focus on seeing things, that turns into people targeting those who have not been in a space to come into a space that is not truly prepared to uplift them in their humanity, right? As we start to say, oh, I want to see more representation of fill in the blank identity, that does not always go, okay, well, let us change so that we can make sure that people are coming and that we bring people. Sometimes it turns into, I need you to go get people at all costs. And now you're targeting people. So let's not do that. So as we look at what it means for this to take time, I say that remember, as it takes time, know that it is contagious. Know that it is worth it. Know that it works. We've seen the data. We've had the conversations, all of these things. In it taking time, use that time to be deliberate about creating connections. Use that time to be deliberate about removing barriers, individual barriers that we have with our own biases and prejudices. Use that time to prepare and to provide an environment that is sustainable for others, right? So that we can be bold enough to say that we like opera, so that we can keep humanity at the root, so we can make sure we're connecting with our communities in authentic ways, so that we make sure that we continue to have those conversations. So those are my three takeaways from Opus 1 of taking the stage with Kristian and Quo. Oh, and stop tripping. That's my that was fourth one in there. We have to have these conversations because there are a lot of things that we just need to address. We can do that. We can address them.
Say something.
Say something. And it's okay. And when people say something, listen, right? Listen, as we say, not to respond, listen to hear. I say listen, not to fully understand, because you will never understand what someone else is absolutely going through, but listen to trust, listen to learn, not to understand from a place of authority. There's a difference. I snuck in some more. Stop talking.
No, it's good. Like I don't even think
coworkers know I talk a lot.
This way, but we do need to wrap up because we're Instagram is good for kicking you off. They're like bye. So things to look forward to in Opus 2. Opus 2 is coming. We will be back in January. We'll be taking some rest. I think it's very important that we rest. I know I personally have not been good about that, so that's one of the things that I anticipate before Opus 2 is getting some rest. Once we get some rest, we will be back to the drawing board and working on different topics. What we're anticipating, and I'll let Quo go on her end too, but I know we're going to be doing more of the same. There will be some times where we do calls to action, just like we've done in the past. We are definitely going to continue to have some equity challenges and that sort of thing. And we will continue to bring on guests and like Quo says, to stalk people and ask them to come be on the show.
Can I be your friend?
Yeah. And moving toward practical application. We touched on that a little bit. So that's what I look forward to seeing in Opus 2. What about you, Quo?
Yes, same. And then having guests return, right, to possibly continue conversations, always continuing conversations, but then to provide a different perspective, perhaps on another conversation. So building on the work that we've created together as a community. Also being able to look as we have practical examples of what it means for practical application and implementation, being in an honest space of saying, did you really intend to do that? Was that really your, right? Being able to have those honest conversations now that we are in a space where there is trust, but then in a space where there's community to support and do the work. I am also excited for many of the topics that we have coming up and then many of the guests that we have lined up for Opus 2. But most importantly, I'm excited about the ways that the Taking the Stage community makes it their own and then starts to build from there.
Yeah, it's really cool. Somebody used us as part of their curriculum, which was so dope.
We want to be a resource. Thank you.
That's why we did it. That's part of why we
know.
That's dope. It's great. It was in college though, before anybody starts having a fit. Let's just leave it like that.
Not a fit.
I know what I'm talking about. Speaking of episodes, Critical Human Facts was a good episode.
Yeah.
So that's just I forgot about that, but I thought I would just touch base on that one. There's nonsense going on around that. So positive notes, make them quick, Quo, because we're gonna get cut off.
Okay, positive notes. One, gratitude, of course. Thank y'all for sticking with us for all of these episodes, but for providing space for us and sharing space with us. Know that it does not stop, right? Can't stop, won't stop. This will continue, and we will continue to do this work until we realize we don't have to do it anymore. and there's space for that. But we'll continue to do this work together because, as we said, it is contagious. We see that it works. We see the importance of being in the space together and having a space to be able to have these honest conversations to seek collective solutions. So continue to do the work, continue to be uplifted, continue to be supported. Know that you are supported. Know that you matter. Know that we are absolutely grateful for the time that you've given us, that you continue to give us. We're not going away, just a break. And in that break, being able to come back and continue this work, knowing that it will not stop. So know that you don't have to do it alone, as we always say. And then know that we grow together in this space when we are authentic and we are simply making sure that we're sharing an art form, but that we're acknowledging and uplifting our humanity through that art form. So those are my positive notes for all of these episodes.
Well, thank you so much, Quo, and thank you everyone from the bottom of our hearts for watching and continuing to support. We wish you well. We will be back. Continue to be bold, be creative. Artists, you are needed. If that is not evident by now, I hope that will sink in for you as we move back onto our traditional stages and as we continue to explore the depths of what this art form and this work within this art form can do. So have a great rest of your day. We love you all. We will see you in January. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.